project is front brakes, front upper control arms, added tie rod ends, and new wheel bearings as well. Here you can see the brake pad is worn almost to the rotor. Up here you can see that top ball joint is just worn out. This tie rod end down here is also just boots destroyed. I'm going to use a 13mm wrench for this. Should just kind of pry off if you work it end to end. Up and off. And don't drop it like that. That's bad for this brake line. Next, remove the two 15mm bolts that hold this caliper to this spindle here. Once they're loose, you can use power tools to take the bolts the rest of the way out. The caliper should slide off with the brake pads still in there if they haven't come out yet. And then finally, just pull the brake rotor off of the hub. You might have to wiggle it a bit depending on how rusty it is. Set it off to the side. Removing this back shield can help with getting some of the parts out. Next, we're going to remove this tie rod here, and so to do that we need to bend up this cotter pin. Then grab your favorite electric impact and take the bolt off. Now you put the nut back on a couple of turns, gives you a better platform. Next, we're going to remove the spindle nut here, which should allow us to pop our axle out the backside. This should be a 32mm size bolt. Then thread the nut back on a couple turns. Sometimes it does help to use a pry bar on the backside to help wiggle it out as well. Now that we have it loose, you can see we can shift it with our fingers here. That's all we need. There's also an 8mm bolt that holds this clip to the spindle here to take off. Between the spindle and the hub, right in the kind of crevice. Next, we'll take a 17mm wrench to hold one side of the top ball joint nut holder here. I'm going to take our 15mm on our second favorite electric tool and take it out. Take the nut out. after that, we'll kind of just take our pry bar, kind of wedge it up in there and try and pry the control arm up and out. May take some persuasion. Spindle will just fall forward. For the upper control arm, there is a 21mm nut and bolt that hold each side of the control arm in. If replacing the passenger upper control arm with a 1 unit from a 2-piece unit, you will need to get new alignment pieces to put on the control arm so you can still have your camber caster adjustments. Arm should just work itself out. Like so. There you go. I am going from a 2-piece control arm for the passenger side to a 1-piece control arm. Easy. Now, before putting the new wheel bearing on, it's a good idea to clean the spindle, the shafts here, get some of the crap out off of them. And then we also want to clean kind of the inside here where the wheel bearing will sit. Now, before putting the new one on, I'm going to spray some WD-40 on the splines here, just to kind of help lubricate it up a bit, slide in, so they don't jab or get cross-threaded and make a bad day. Like that. Take the housing up so we can get that set it in place. Go ahead and tighten your bolts up. Go through and make sure all the bolts are tight. Next step is to install the nut back for the splines there. Now it's always a good idea to clean the threads off of before you put the new one on, and also lubricate them. So just a little bit. Now thread the new one on. We're going to take it and put it in our spindle. We need to retract these pistons back into their bore here. Grab one of the old brake pads and slide it in there. Just side to side. Work your way through. Press it. Magic. Now we can press back in. Then we're going to hang it back up out of the way and reinstall our bracket here. Before installing the bracket, we need to put our brake rotor on. Now there's different schools of thought for what brake rotor should go where. Some people say it should go this way with the slots facing towards the direction of travel, so it kind of chops at the brake pad. I prefer the slots facing away from the direction of travel, so it's like a nice slicing motion. Just slices through the brake pad. Slide that on. Now it's always a good idea to remove these caliper slides and re-grease these before reinstalling. Just take them and wipe off the old gunk. And just like the tie rod end, we're just going to use a little bit of anti-seize. Goop it all up on there. most brake kits will come with new slides so that the brake pads will sit in. It's always a good idea to replace those. If not, clean up the old ones really good and lube them up, and we're going to lube these new ones up too as well. So we really just want to lube where the piston or the brake pads are going to rub themselves, so kind of on these faces in here. Doesn't have to be a lot, just enough to make them slide real good. On the spindle. You always want to install brake components by hand and hand tighten them down. This way you know for certain how much torque is being put on the components and the bolts and everything. Then once our spindle, or once our carrier is put on, we're going to put on new brake pads. These ones happen to have a wear indicator on them, and that one you want to put on the inside because the inside pad tends to wear down faster than the outside. Nice and clamped on there. And we're going to go ahead and grab our caliper. Slide our caliper over. Some people say it can make noise. Again, I've never had issues with it.